This is the British Virgin Islands like you've never seen it before. Today we're heading to the Caribbeans, but not for the usual travel cliches. Nope. We're diving into 16 real, fascinating, and sometimes downright bizarre truths about this unique corner of the Caribbean. No fake hype here, no recycled info, just solid, surprising facts that show the BVI like you've never seen it before. So sit back, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's uncover the reality behind the paradise. Please note that I don't have unlimited footage or visuals from the British Virgin Islands, so some clips in this video are used for illustrative purposes. I've done my very best to present the islands as accurately and respectfully as possible. Thank you for understanding and supporting the channel. Fact 1. The BVI are a fragmented wonderland of over 60 islands. The British Virgin Islands might appear small on a map, but they are far from being a simple dot in the Caribbean. In fact, this stunning archipelago consists of over 60 individual islands, cays, and rocky outcrops. Only about 16 of them are inhabited, while the rest remain untouched, offering secret coves, hidden beaches, and postcard-perfect solitude. The four main islands, Tortola, Virgin Gorda, Anegada, and Jost Van Dyke, account for the majority of the population and infrastructure. But the real magic lies in the countless islets scattered around them. Some are so tiny you can walk across them in under a minute. Others, like Peter Island or Norman Island, host luxurious resorts or fascinating legends about buried pirate treasure. The sheer fragmentation of this territory makes it one of the most alluring sailing destinations in the world. Adventurers and yachties can spend days island hopping without ever seeing the same beach twice. The BVI's sprawling nature also means that even during peak tourist season, there are always corners of quiet paradise to be found, as if the country was tailor-made for explorers with salt in their veins and a craving for seclusion. Fact 2. There's no real river in the British Virgin Islands. Despite their lush tropical appearance and vibrant greenery, the British Virgin Islands are one of the few places on Earth that don't have a single permanent river. That's right, 0 flowing rivers run through this entire archipelago. Instead, the islands rely heavily on rainwater collection, underground springs, and desalination plants for their freshwater needs. This geographic quirk stems from the island's steep volcanic terrain and porous limestone areas, which allow rainwater to drain rapidly into the ground or the sea. On islands like Tortola or Virgin Gorda, you'll find small streams or gullies that fill up during heavy rainfall, but they quickly dry up under the tropical sun. This lack of rivers has historically shaped how people live, build, and farm in the BVI. Water tanks, rooftop cisterns, and catchment systems are essential features of nearly every home and building. The absence of freshwater rivers also means that ecosystems have evolved differently, with hardy plant species and wildlife that can adapt to seasonal dryness. It's one of the many subtle but powerful ways in which nature has dictated life in the islands. So while the BVI may be surrounded by endless blue ocean, its residents have always had to get creative when it comes to finding fresh water. Fact 3. The island of Anegada is a geological rebel. Unlike the rest of the British Virgin Islands, which were formed by volcanic activity, Anegada stands apart, literally and geologically. It's the only coral island in the entire BVI chain, composed not of black volcanic rock, but of ancient limestone and coral deposits. This gives Anegada a remarkably different landscape. It's low, flat, and barely rises more than 28 feet above sea level at its highest point. In contrast to the dramatic peaks of Tortola or Virgin Gorda, Anegada appears almost like a pancake in the ocean. Its very name means the drowned land in Spanish, a fitting title for an island that seems to barely float above the waves. Yet this flatness hides incredible natural riches. Anegada boasts vast salt ponds, pink flamingos, secluded beaches, and some of the Caribbean's healthiest coral reefs, which surround it like a protective crown. These reefs make the surrounding waters dangerous for navigation, which historically kept the island isolated and mysterious. Shipwrecks are scattered across the seabed like sunken monuments, attracting divers from around the world. Anegada is not just different, it's defiant. A coral-born rebel in a family of volcanic giants, quietly dazzling those who make the effort to find it. Fact 4. The baths on Virgin Gorda are a natural rock cathedral. Tucked along the southern coast of Virgin Gorda lies one of the most surreal natural wonders in the Caribbean, the baths. This geological marvel is made up of massive granite boulders, some as large as small houses, casually scattered along the beach, and partially submerged in crystal-clear turquoise water. These colossal stones, formed by volcanic activity deep underground and exposed over millions of years through erosion and uplift, now create a breathtaking labyrinth of grottos, tide pools, and narrow tunnels. Walking through the baths feels like entering a natural cathedral sculpted by ancient gods, with shafts of light filtering through crevices and water echoing between the stones. It's one of the only places in the region where volcanic and tectonic forces have created something so visually stunning, yet still accessible to the average traveler. You don't need to be a mountaineer or a diver. Just barefoot curiosity will do. The area is protected as a national park, and rightly so. It's a geological playground where nature shows off its boldest design work, turning an ordinary beach day into an unforgettable exploration. No artificial theme park could ever compete with the raw elegance of the baths. It's pure elemental beauty, carved from fire and polished by centuries of ocean tides. Fact 5. A tax haven without personal income tax. The British Virgin Islands are more than just palm trees and turquoise lagoons. They're also one of the world's most influential financial hideaways. Despite having a population of only around 31,000 people, the territory hosts more than 400,000 registered companies. Why? Because the BVI imposes no personal income tax, no corporate tax on offshore companies, no capital gains tax, and no inheritance tax. In other words, it's a fiscal fantasy land for investors, corporations, and the ultra-wealthy seeking privacy and light regulation. While critics often label it a tax haven, supporters argue it's a legitimate financial hub offering stability, efficiency, and legal security. The system is based on incorporation fees, annual license charges, and registration costs, which ironically make up a huge portion of the BVI's government revenue. This clever economic model means you can be sipping a piña colada on the beach while your offshore holding company quietly exists, paying virtually nothing in taxes. But it's not all yachts and shell companies. The BVI still faces global pressure for financial transparency. Nonetheless, its unique blend of Caribbean charm and tax leniency has helped the islands punch far above their weight on the world economic stage. It's a tropical loophole with serious power behind its sunny smile. Fact 6. The BVI has one of the world's largest yacht charter fleets. When it comes to sailing, the British Virgin Islands aren't just good, they're legendary. Often called the sailing capital of the Caribbean, the BVI hosts one of the largest concentrations of charter yachts in the entire world. With consistent trade winds, line-of-sight navigation, calm seas, and more than 60 islands to explore, it's like this place was custom designed for sailors. Whether you're a seasoned skipper or a curious newbie with zero nautical experience, the BVI offers something for every type of sea lover. Companies like Moorings and Sunsail operate massive fleets of catamarans and monohulls, turning the islands into a floating city of sails. At any given time, thousands of boats are gliding between anchorages, exploring hidden beaches, or joining famous regattas like the Spring Regatta or BVI Emancipation Festival races. Some travelers skip hotels entirely and live aboard yachts for their whole stay, waking up to a different island every morning. The boating industry is not just a tourist draw. It's the lifeblood of the economy, fueling restaurants, marinas, dive shops, and local markets. In the BVI, the ocean isn't just scenery. It's the highway, the playground, and the beating heart of island life. If you ever dreamed of sailing into the sunset, this is where that dream lives. Fact 7. English is the official language, but you'll hear island English. While English is the official language of the British Virgin Islands, what you'll actually hear on the streets, in shops, and around dinner tables is something far more colorful: Island English. This is a vibrant local dialect shaped by centuries of African heritage, colonial history, Caribbean rhythm, and pure island personality. It's fast, melodic, and peppered with idioms, contractions, and grammar that twist standard English into something uniquely local. You might hear someone say, "Me ain't know about dat," meaning "I don't know about that," or "what going on," instead of "what's happening." It's not just a dialect. It's a cultural fingerprint. In everyday conversation, storytelling, music, and even in courtrooms, the island lilt carries a warm mix of humor, wisdom, and pride. Tourists may need a moment to adjust, but once you catch the flow, it's impossible not to smile. Importantly, this language isn't seen as broken English. It's respected as a living, breathing form of cultural expression. It reveals who people are, where they come from, and how history has shaped their voice. So while the signs might be in Queen's English, the soul of the BVI speaks in a rhythm all its own, raw, real, and unmistakably Caribbean. Fact 8. The islands are a British territory but don't pay the UK taxes. The British Virgin Islands proudly fly the Union Jack in the corner of their flag, but their connection to the United Kingdom is far more symbolic than practical. As a British overseas territory, the BVI acknowledges the British monarch as head of state, but in terms of daily governance and taxation, they operate very independently. The local government handles its own laws, finances, immigration policies, and economic development, all without collecting or paying any taxes to the UK Treasury. In fact, citizens of the BVI don't pay UK income tax, nor does the UK fund the BVI's public services. It's a political setup that gives the islands the prestige and protection of being under the British Crown, while retaining their own autonomy and financial control. However, this arrangement isn't without tension. In recent years, the UK has increased pressure on the BVI to improve transparency, especially regarding offshore companies and anti-corruption measures. Some islanders welcome this oversight while others see it as meddling. Still, the relationship remains intact. Formal but flexible, royal but remote. So when you visit the BVI and see Queen Elizabeth's face on the currency, remember, it's more a nod to history than a tax collector's reach. This is Britain's sunniest stepchild, loyal but fiercely self-reliant. Fact 9. There's a national holiday just for the Emancipation Festival. In the British Virgin Islands, freedom isn't just history, it's a celebration. Every year in early August, the entire territory bursts into life for the Emancipation Festival, a multi-day extravaganza commemorating the abolition of slavery in the Virgin Islands on August 1st, 1834. But this isn't a quiet remembrance, it's a full-blown cultural explosion. Streets fill with parades, steel pan bands, costumed dancers, calypso competitions, and colorful pageants. Locals call it Festival, and it's one of the most anticipated times of the year. Festivities span across different islands, with Tortola hosting the largest events, including the famous Rise and Shine Tramp, an early morning street party with music trucks and dancing crowds that stretch for miles. The festival is about honoring ancestors and celebrating the resilience, pride, and identity of the Afro-Caribbean community. Food plays a central role too. Vendors serve up dishes like goat water, Johnny cakes, saltfish, and coconut tarts. Even the political class gets involved. Speeches and ceremonies blend with live performances and community events. For visitors, it's a rare window into the heart and soul of the islands. It's loud, joyous, reflective, and unapologetically proud. A living memory turned into a dance, and a powerful reminder that freedom, once won, is always worth celebrating. Fact 10. Road Town is one of the smallest capitals in the Caribbean. Nestled along the southern coast of Tortola lies Road Town, the modest yet mighty capital of the British Virgin Islands. With a population of just under 13,000 people, Road Town is one of the smallest capital cities in the entire Caribbean. But don't let its size fool you. This little port town punches far above its weight, acting as the commercial, political, and financial heartbeat of the entire territory. Its name comes from the nautical term the Roads, referring to the roadstead, a sheltered area outside a harbor where ships can safely anchor. And indeed, Road Town Harbor is almost always dotted with yachts, ferries, and cargo vessels. The city blends British colonial history with Caribbean charm. Pastel-colored government buildings, narrow streets, and roadside food stalls coexist with law firms, offshore banks, and charter yacht companies. On weekdays, business buzzes through the town's legal chambers and financial offices, while weekends see locals and tourists strolling through the marina or sipping rum punches on beachside patios. Though compact, Road Town has everything, from botanical gardens to cricket fields, from street parades to legal firms representing companies worth billions. It's a curious paradox. a sleepy-looking town that quietly runs a global offshore empire, proving that you don't need skyscrapers to be a financial heavyweight. Fact 11. Fungi isn't a mushroom, it's the national dish. If you walk into a local eatery in the British Virgin Islands and order fish and fungi, don't expect mushrooms sautéed in garlic. In the BVI, fungi, pronounced fungi, is a beloved national staple made from cornmeal and okra, cooked together into a smooth, savory side dish that resembles polenta with an island twist. It's traditionally served with saltfish, dried and salted cod, either fried or stewed in tomatoes, onions, and peppers. The dish has deep roots in African culinary heritage, brought to the Caribbean by enslaved people who had to get creative with limited ingredients. Fungi became a nutritional powerhouse, cheap, filling, and versatile. Over generations, it evolved into something more than survival food. It became a cultural symbol, a taste of resilience passed from one pot to the next. Today, it's served at festivals, family gatherings, beach barbecues, and roadside stands, often alongside conch, curried goat, or fried snapper. Locals eat it with pride, and visitors quickly learn to love its simple, hearty comfort. Don't be surprised if you're offered a second helping. In the BVI, fish and fungi isn't just a meal, it's a piece of the nation's soul. And no, not a single mushroom in sight. Fact 12. Their flag bears the image of a saint holding a lamp. Look closely at the flag of the British Virgin Islands, and you'll see something unusual. A woman in a green robe holding a golden lamp, surrounded by 10 more lamps at her feet. That woman is Saint Ursula, a Christian martyr whose story, though partly mythical, left a lasting imprint on the identity of these islands. According to legend, Ursula was a 4th century princess who embarked on a pilgrimage with 11,000 virgin followers. Yes, 11,000. On their journey, they were all reportedly martyred by invading Huns near Cologne. When Christopher Columbus sailed past this island chain in 1493, he named it Santa Ursula y las 11,000 Virgenes, in honor of Saint Ursula and her entourage. That name, of course, was later shortened to Virgin Islands. The British Virgin Islands chose to include her on their flag as a nod to their historical and spiritual roots. The lamps represent purity, guidance, and eternal light, values that Saint Ursula symbolizes. It's rare for a flag to depict a saint so prominently, making the BVI's banner not just a political emblem, but a storyteller. In a region rich with pirate tales and colonial scars, the Virgin Islands wear their identity with mythical pride, a flag lit not just by history, but by 11,000 glowing lamps. Fact 13. Hurricanes play a massive role in shaping the islands. The British Virgin Islands are no strangers to paradise, but they're no strangers to destruction either. Positioned squarely in the hurricane belt, the BVI has faced nature's fury more times than locals care to count. The most brutal in recent memory was Hurricane Irma in 2017. A Category 5 monster that tore through the islands with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour. Entire neighborhoods were flattened, boats hurled onto land like toys, and trees stripped bare in minutes. It wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a national reset. Homes, schools, marinas, even government buildings had to be rebuilt from the ground up. Yet what's remarkable is the resilience. Within months, local communities were organizing cleanups, small businesses reopened, and tourists started trickling back. But hurricanes haven't just reshaped the infrastructure, they've redefined architecture and mindset. Today, buildings are more hurricane-resistant, emergency plans are tighter, and people live with a quiet awareness that the next storm is always possible. Even the landscape has changed. Some beaches widened, others vanished, and coral reefs suffered long-term damage. In the BVI, hurricanes aren't just weather events. They're tests of spirit, architects of change, and reminders that paradise comes with power and a price. Fact 14. There are no fast food chains like McDonald's or KFC. In an era where even remote outposts seem to have a McDonald's or a KFC, the British Virgin Islands have taken a deliciously different path. There are 0 major international fast food chains operating on the islands. That's right. No Golden Arches, no buckets of fried chicken, and definitely no Taco Bell late-night runs. The absence of these global giants isn't accidental, it's intentional. The BVI government and local community have long emphasized the preservation of island culture, small business development, and culinary authenticity. Instead of mass-produced burgers, you'll find roadside food trucks grilling fresh-caught fish, local chefs serving up stewed oxtail, and beachside shacks offering homemade roti or conch fritters. The focus is on flavor, freshness, and tradition, not speed or standardization. For locals, this keeps money circulating within the community and strengthens culinary heritage. For tourists, it means you actually get to taste the Virgin Islands, not just a recycled menu from back home. While some visitors may be shocked by the lack of familiar logos, many quickly come to appreciate the difference. In the BVI, grabbing a quick bite doesn't mean losing cultural flavor. It means savoring it. Fast food here doesn't come from a franchise. It comes wrapped in foil, served with a smile, and tastes like home. Island style. Fact 15. The BVI has one of the world's highest ratios of boats to people. In the British Virgin Islands, boats aren't just for tourists. They're practically part of the national identity. With a local population of around 31,000 people and an estimated fleet of over 3,000 registered yachts, the BVI boasts one of the highest boat-to-resident ratios on Earth. That means for roughly every 10 people, there's one vessel floating in the harbor, slicing through turquoise waves or anchored in a hidden bay. And we're not talking about dinghies. These are sleek catamarans, luxury sailboats, and fully equipped charter yachts. Sailing is woven into the daily rhythm of life here. Kids grow up learning the ropes, literally. Schools teach maritime safety, and some families commute by boat rather than car. Regattas are local holidays, and every major event, from weddings to corporate parties, can be hosted aboard a yacht. The island's geography practically demands it. With over 60 landmasses to explore, roads can only take you so far. The rest is up to the sea. Tourism, transportation, sport, and even some housing are all tied to the waves. In the BVI, boats are not just tools. They're lifelines, playgrounds, businesses, and floating homes. When you live in a place that's mostly ocean, the line between land and water isn't just blurred. It's beautifully irrelevant. Living in the British Virgin Islands might sound like a dream, and in many ways it is. But paradise comes at a premium. The cost of living here is notoriously high, even by Caribbean standards. Since most goods are imported, basic groceries like milk, eggs, and bread can cost 2 to 3 times more than on the US mainland. For example, a gallon of milk might cost around $10, while a simple restaurant meal can easily exceed $25. Renting a modest one-bedroom apartment in Road Town will likely cost between $1,200 and $1,800 per month, and utility bills can add a few hundred more. Electricity is expensive due to generator-based power, and water is often desalinated, another cost factor. For foreigners, settling down requires a long-stay visa or work permit, which must be sponsored by a local employer. Permanent residency is difficult to obtain and usually granted only after several years of residence. There is no citizenship by investment program, and dual citizenship is not allowed. Employment opportunities are limited and generally go to locals first, especially in government or administrative roles. Expats typically find work in tourism, finance, real estate, or yacht services, industries that fuel the economy. Work permits are not easily granted for unskilled labor, so most expats need specialized skills. While taxes are low, no income tax or capital gains, daily life is anything but cheap. However, quality of life, safety, tropical beauty, and close-knit community life often compensate for the cost. For digital nomads or business owners in the financial or maritime sectors, it's a luxurious, if pricey, place to call home. If you enjoyed discovering the surprising side of the British Virgin Islands, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the most fascinating places on Earth, especially those hidden gems most travelers overlook. Got a favorite fact or a destination you'd love us to cover next? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you think someone else would love this content, share the video and spread the adventure. Thanks for exploring the world with me. See you in the next episode.